March 30th, 1981, a day that could have rewritten American history in a single violent moment. The target, President Ronald Reagan, the man behind the gun, a troubled and obsessive mind convinced that the only way to make his mark was through an act of unthinkable violence. Today, we will be talking about John Hinckley Jr. John Warnock Hinckley Jr. was born on May 29, 1959, into a wealthy family. His father, John Hinckley Sr., was the chairman of Vanderbilt Energy Corporation, a company that brought significant financial stability to the family. Raised in Highland Park, Texas, John Jr. had privileges and comforts that many would envy. But while his family enjoyed material wealth, John was deeply isolated. Hinckley struggled to make friends and never seemed to fit in at school. As he entered his teenage years, his isolation deepened, with early signs of mental health issues emerging. By the time he reached college, he had developed symptoms that pointed to depression and a disconnection from reality. John's parents grew concerned as he spent more and more time alone in his room, listening to music and retreating from the world. His family sought psychological help, yet treatment options and understanding of mental health were very limited in the 1970s. Despite their efforts, John's condition worsened, and he drifted further away from his family and reality. In 1976, John Hinckley Jr. saw Taxi Driver, a film directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Robert De Niro as Travis Bickle, a lonely and disturbed New Yorker spiraling into violent fantasies. The film had an overwhelming impact on Hinckley, who began to identify as Bickle's sense of isolation and disillusionment. For Hinckley, Bickle's actions seemed like a way to escape his anonymity. One character, in particular, captured Hinckley's fixation, Iris, a young prostitute played by Jodie Foster. As Foster's career took off, Hinckley's infatuation crossed into an obsession. He wrote her numerous letters expressing his admiration, imagining she would somehow respond to him if he performed a grand act, akin to what Bickle attempted in film. Some of his letters revealed disturbing fantasies. He once wrote, "I am doing this for you." Driven by delusion, he convinced himself that an act of violence would prove his devotion. Before he fixated on President Reagan, Hinckley attempted to target then-President Jimmy Carter. In 1980, he trailed Carter's campaign events, attending rallies in Ohio, Tennessee, and even California, and Hinckley bought plane tickets, meticulously following Carter, but each time he failed to act. Still, these close calls showed his determination to perform an act that would etch his name into history. During this period, Hinckley also began practicing at shooting ranges, often using a small caliber handgun. He took a particular interest into the .22 caliber Hrom RG-14 revolver, the same weapon that he would later use in his attempt on Reagan's life. Gun laws at the time allowed Hinckley to purchase firearms easily, despite his apparent instability and multiple red flags. March 30th, 1981, marked the height of Hinckley's years of obsession and mental decline. That morning, he left a note for Jodie Foster, describing his desperate plan and his belief that he could capture her attention with this act. In his mind, this attempt on President Reagan's life would create an unbreakable bond between them. With the note left behind, he headed to the Washington Hilton, where Reagan would be giving a speech. He carefully positioned himself near the hotel exit, mingling with the crowd. Witnesses would later describe a calm but intense young man, focused on his purpose. At 2:27 p.m., as President Reagan exited the Hilton, Hinckley fired 6 shots in rapid succession. The crowd was thrown into chaos, and Secret Service agents sprang into action to shield the president. Reagan was struck by a ricocheted bullet that punctured his lung, missing his heart mere inches. James Brady, the White House press secretary, was shot in the head and left with permanent injuries, later becoming a symbol of the fight for gun control. Officer Thomas Delanty and Agent Tim McCarthy also suffered injuries as they were protecting the president. The Secret Service rushed Reagan to George Washington University Hospital when he arrived pale and in intense pain, struggling to breathe. The bullet had collapsed his lung, and surgeons worked urgently to remove the fragment and repair the damage. Despite the severity of his injuries, Reagan's composure shone through. Famously, he quipped to the surgeons, "I hope y'all are all Republicans," showing his humor and resilience in a life-or-death situation. The surgery was successful, but doctors later revealed just how close Reagan had come to dying. Following the assassination attempt, the Secret Service reviewed and overhauled their protocols, enhanced training in emergency medicine, changes in crowd management, and the implementation of bulletproof glass were some of the key reforms. Future presidential outings would never be the same. The public reaction to Reagan's resilience was immediate. His handling of the event, both physically and emotionally, bolstered his popularity, turning him into a figure of strength in the eyes of many Americans. Hinckley's trial in 1982 was a spectacle. Prosecutors portrayed him as a dangerous man obsessed with notoriety, while the defense argued that he was severely mentally ill. Ultimately, Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity, a verdict that stunned the nation and led to public outcry. The insanity defense came under intense scrutiny, prompting many states to review and tighten laws regarding mental illness in criminal cases. The verdict also sparked debates on the rights of the mentally ill and the legal complexities of insanity pleas.
I shot 4 people, and I'm sorry to the Reagan family, the Brady family, the other families of the victims. I'm sorry to Jodie Foster for bringing her into this.
Hinckley, depressed, isolated, and delusional, was obsessed with actress Jodie Foster. By attempting to kill President Reagan, he thought he could impress her.
I feel badly about that.
What about the Reagans?
I feel badly for all of them. I mean, I have true remorse for what I did. I know that they probably can't forgive me now, but I just want them to know that I am sorry for what I did.
The attempt on Reagan's life brought long-term changes in both gun control and mental health policies. James Brady, who suffered permanent brain damage, became a staunch advocate for gun regulations. His efforts, alongside his wife, Sarah, led to the Brady's Bill passage in 1993, mandating background checks and waiting periods for firearm purchases. The event also underscored the need for better mental health support, pushing the policy changes that address the gaps in mental health care for potentially dangerous individuals. After decades in a psychiatric hospital, Hinckley was released under strict conditions in 2016, followed by a full release in 2022. The decision to free him was controversial and renegated debates about the limits of rehabilitation and the ongoing stigma of mental illness. Hinckley's case has influenced public views on mental illness and redemption, highlighting the tension between justice and compassion. The 1981 assassination attempt remains a powerful chapter in American history. It's a story of a troubled man, a resilient president, and a society forced to confront its weaknesses in both security and mental health care. The effects of the day resonate to this day, reminding us that the fragility of safety and the complex intersections between violence and mental illness.
You're still looking fine, high up on your pedestal. I'm so glad you're mine. Thank you.